Thank you for having me. And my biceps are not that big anymore. But I have always felt home in this place from the time I first came to watch Jeffrey baptized. And there's been many wonderful visits since then, so thank you. So here we are in the setting of complete darkness, complete silence, because Jesus has breathed his last. It's hard to even say it after we've been hearing all about this excruciating crucifixion. And now it's almost like being there where we're sitting at the foot of the cross and in the darkness watching him breathe his last. It's so final. And just like the crowds that sat there and the disciples that sat there looking up at Jesus, that was it. It was done. It was finished. He was dead. And so darkness is a very appropriate symbol for Good Friday. That's why we do this every year. We have to come back to the cross. And we have to sit in the darkness with Jesus who's dead. It's a strange thing that we do. And I don't like darkness. Most of us don't like darkness because darkness is a symbol of death, of fear, of uncertainty, of evil. I don't like darkness. I've always been afraid of the dark. And yet, God speaks light into the darkness of creation. But the creation still has darkness. The Word tells us that the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. But there's this strange tension that we have to live in this kind of darkness of Good Friday and the light of Easter. So it's good for us, God's people, to come and sit with Jesus at the cross. Some people see darkness very clearly, and some people are oblivious and blind to the darkness. And I know that because I am a poster child for someone who did not see the darkness for a long time. I am a child of the Deep South. I am a 1% wasp. And so when I grew up, I thought everybody lived in the light of Easter. I thought everybody was happy. I didn't know I was projecting all of this happiness on everyone else. I didn't understand those things. That's where I was. But thanks be to God, he's been waking me up. And I have been on a long journey with God to help me realize that my sunny outlook was based on the darkness of privilege. Not a great thing to find out, but a great thing to find out. Maybe some of you can't trace your family back 10 generations. Be careful what you wish for. You look back far enough and you're going to find some darkness. And I love how Joya named some things in our history about sharecroppers and people being thrown into prisons. It's called convict leasing. It's a history we don't really know. And I know their names, my great-great-greats, who did it, who profited from it. Now that is darkness. I don't want to see that darkness in my background. I don't want to see how that darkness gets trickled down into a culture, and it tries to trickle in to hearts and minds, and it has. So I always knew as a Christian that there was darkness in me. That's sin. That's in all of us. But I didn't know about the darkness that was around me. But God heals blindness, and God has beginning to let me experience it and see it, and it's taken a long time. But one reason I say it is because there's a lot of others like me, like I was, and there's a lot of them who are Christians. So that needs to be said, and that needs to be known. So we all know there's darkness in the world. We know that babies get gassed with poison. because of political desires, because of power. We know that recently a man shot his wife on the grounds of the elementary school where their kids lived. I just found out that one of my dearest friends, her husband is cheating on her with one of their best friends. Now, I know that that's not news, but it's darkness. And there's a lot of darkness in the news. I mean, you pick up the paper, it's an act of faith to pick up the paper and read the news. Whether it's the Montclair Times or the New York Times, we just dropped a bomb on another country. It's just so dark. And yet it's part of the world. It's part of our lives. It's part of creation. And Jesus was acquainted with all this darkness, the darkness in humanity, the darkness in the world. And he said to us, pick up your cross and follow me. He did it knowing that we could and that we would not be overcome by this darkness because he has overcome the darkness. In his death and resurrection and return back to the Father, darkness, like death, has lost its sting, but it's still here. And this puts us in a strange tension for our whole lives. And so on Good Friday, we have to look for the gifts in the darkness. And we've been speaking them today. These 7 sayings of Jesus are our gift of Good Friday. And we as God's people can use them to dwell in the reality of darkness. So when we see darkness around us, when we pick up the news, we can say, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. Or we can say, Father, forgive us, for we don't know what we're doing. And we can say, my God, why have you forsaken me? And then we can remind ourselves, oh, Jesus has said that today I will be with him. I can say that every day. Today I can be with Jesus. And I can say that every day until paradise. I can say, oh, God's given me a new family because my old one isn't that great. And this new family is you and me, brothers and sisters. Jesus has given us this new community. Sometimes it doesn't look a whole lot better than the old community, but it's what he's given us. And so we're family. And so we can say that. And we can also say, honestly, I'm thirsty, and know that God has living water for us. God has rest for us. So we can say it. We can say, I know I see the darkness, and it is awful, and when is it going to get better, and what am I going to do about it? But it's finished. It's finished. It's completed, and everything that we need to live in this strange tension, we have. We just have to say it. It is finished. I have what I need to love Jesus and to love one another. And every day, church, every day, we need to say, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Or I love this other translation. It just says, Father, I place my life in your hands. We need to say that every day of our lives, sometimes 10 times a day. Father, into your hands I place my life, my spirit. I bet you've seen some darkness. I bet you've seen some darkness. I have too. And Jesus says to us, I know, I have too. And then Jesus says, I have come as light into the world, so that everyone who believes in me shall not remain in the darkness. We are people in whom the resurrected Christ, the light of the world, lives. And we have to take that light out into this dark world. And God has given us many gifts to do that, and he's given us these words of Jesus. So I offer them to you as I offer them to myself, as the gift of Good Friday, so that we can walk with the light that shines in the darkness. And every day we can say, what can we say? I place my life in your hands. Father, I place my life in your hands. Jesus, say it with me. Father, I place my life in your hands. Father, I place my life in your hands. And we can keep saying that until Jesus comes again and until darkness is no more. Amen.